Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. Today, we saw the Bucks falter to the Atlanta Hawks by a final score of 111 to 104. And guys, this is a really disappointing loss. The Bucks are winning 80 to 70 after 3 quarters, and they were putting on one of their better defensive outings of the entire season. They weren't letting the Hawks get open threes. The Hawks weren't able to get to the foul line, and there were no easy shots at the rim to be seen for Atlanta. Then in the fourth quarter, that all changed as the Bucks reverted back to a lot of their old ways. They made a lot of the same mistakes they've made over the past 3 years that have hurt them time and time again. And it's frustrating when they have losses like these, where there are easily correctable mistakes that just seem to go unnoticed. Over and over again, the Bucks, number one, allowed Lou Williams to get easy shots out of the pick and roll, and number two, left Bogdan Bogdanovic, one of the best catch and shoot three-pointers in the entire NBA, wide open for easy looks at jump shots. Let's start off by talking about Williams, as for the first 3 quarters of this game, Lou didn't do too much. Actually, my dad said to me, is Lou Williams out for this game? Because he had gone just 0 for 7 from the field and 0 for 3 from the three-point line heading into that fourth quarter. And I certainly did not think that he was super impactful up until that final stretch either. Then, in the fourth, the Bucks changed the way that they were defending. Instead of doing all of the switching that they did over the first 3 quarters, they went back to the drop coverage that we've seen so often over the past couple seasons. Now, I shouldn't say it like that because it's not like the Bucks weren't playing the drop coverage prior to this fourth quarter. Whenever Brook Lopez was in the game, they were playing in the drop. So I guess that my correction from this game would have been to take Brook Lopez off the court much sooner than Coach Bud did. Lopez didn't play the last 2 minutes, but I don't think he should have played in the fourth quarter much at all, and had the Bucks gone with a more switchable lineup, something like Drew Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, Pat Connaughton, Chris Middleton, and Giannis Antetokounmpo for most of the fourth quarter, I don't think this is a game that the Bucks lose. Lou Williams was able to exploit the drop coverage over and over again with his pull-up three-point shooting. Lou Williams had 15 points on 5 for 5 shooting, 4 for 4 from the three-point line in the fourth quarter alone. Brook Lopez was sagging all the way back, and Lou was just able to pull up and knock down jumpers off the dribble. And had the Bucks had that small ball lineup in, had they been playing that switching scheme, I seriously doubt that Lou Will would have been able to get going in the way that he did, and quite honestly, I don't think that he would have been able to get going at all because the Bucks would have been able to smother him by either blitzing or just straight up switching every pick and roll action. So that was definitely disappointing to me, but even more disappointing is just the lack of discipline the guys that were guarding Bogdan Bogdanovic had tonight. The two players that were mostly matched up with Bogey in the fourth quarter were Pat Connaughton and Dante DiVincenzo, with a little bit of Chris Middleton thrown in there as well. And throughout the fourth, those guys just consistently lost track of where Bogdanovic was, and they left the 42% three-point shooter wide open for some easy looks at three-pointers, and Bogey certainly made him pay. In the fourth quarter alone, Bogdan had 12 points on 4 for 5 three-point shooting to add on to what was already a terrific night for him, scoring 32 points. So how you lose track of someone who is number one, an elite shooter, and number two, already having a great game just eludes me, and it's really frustrating that the Bucks were not able to do a better job defensively because, like I said, those first 3 quarters of defense were really, really good. The Bucks were switching all the time, and they weren't letting the Hawks get any easy looks whatsoever. And the fact that that all changed when it came to crunch time was really, really a shame, and man, I just wish the Bucks would have won this game. Losing this one is going to make it really tough for them to get back in the running for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, as they had worked themselves all the way to within 2 games of the Brooklyn Nets for the top seed. And now after losing this one, they're going to be 3 games back, and that is a pretty tough hole to dig yourself out of, especially considering how great the Nets looked in today's game against the Phoenix Suns. But I guess getting back to this game's recap instead of heading off on a tangent about the postseason, I actually did like what the Bucks did with Giannis Antetokounmpo in this one. Well, he wasn't necessarily taking over the game the way he has in a lot of times this season. I do think that using him as number one, a post-up player, and number two, a pick-and-roll screener who just rolls to the basket is sometimes a lot more effective than just having him attack a defense straight up, especially when he has a great defender like Clint Capella matched up on him. Instead, the Bucks used Giannis creatively. They tried to get a smaller player switched onto him so that he could post them up. And when he's in those post-up situations, Giannis does a really nice job of finding the open man. He can also score, of course, as when he's got a smaller player on him, he's usually able to bully that guy and get either close to the rim for a layup, a dunk, or he draws a foul to go to the free throw line. Giannis finished this game with 31 points and 14 rebounds on 11 for 17 shooting and 8 for 10 shooting from the foul line. And that is a terrific game. Those are MVP type stats for Giannis. So to see the Bucks lose this game despite that kind of effort was definitely a shame. And I also liked how they used him as a rim runner, as they ran a lot more pick and rolls with Giannis as the screener and Jrue Holiday or Chris Middleton as the ball handler than I think we're used to seeing from the Bucks in the past. That's a play that has definitely worked when they have gone to it, so I'm hopeful that they use that a bit more. I've got my fingers crossed, as I'm sure you can see there. I also think Giannis was really good on defense for the first three quarters. He had 2 blocks in this game, and he really was doing a great job of playing that weak side rim protection role that he has grown so accustomed to doing over the past few years. But he wasn't able to play and be as effective in that fourth quarter, and so for that reason, I definitely think that takes a lot away from what should have been a terrific night from Giannis. Jrue Holiday was also really good in this game for the Bucks as he had 19 points and 11 assists on 8 for 11 shooting. He was really the main source of offense for Milwaukee in the first half as he had 15 points in the first half alone. But he kind of started to shy away a little bit in the second half and wasn't aggressive looking for his shot in the mid-range or at the basket. And it showed as the Bucks offense continually slowed down as the game went on. Jrue still had a really good game, finishing with 19 points and 11 assists on 8 for 11 shooting, but I really would have liked to have seen him be more aggressive in that second half. He did get to the free throw line at one point down the stretch. I think there were about 3 or 4 minutes left, and he clanked both of those free throws, and that was certainly a killer, and it's probably what I will remember about Jrue Holiday in this game. But I definitely did appreciate the way he was playing for most of the game. Those free throws were just really, really painful to watch, and it definitely would have helped the Bucks' chances of winning had he knocked those down. Chris Middleton was in a bit of the opposite situation from Jrue Holiday. Like I said, Holiday got off to a great start and then slowed down as the game went on. Middleton got off to a really bad start as he wasn't able to do much at all in the first half, but in the second half, he really got it going and was a consistent source of offense for Milwaukee, and he finished with a really respectable stat line of 23 points on 9 for 18 shooting and 3 for 5 shooting from beyond the three-point line. The thing is, though, Middleton can't afford to get off to these slow starts because the Bucks are really reliant on him to create shots for himself. As we saw in that first half where the Bucks are able to muster just 50 points, when Middleton doesn't have it going, it's hard for them to find consistent sources of offense. And so with Chris, I hope that he's able to find his stroke more consistently because when he does start to warm it up, when he does get on fire like he did in the second half, he can go on stretches where he carries the Bucks to wins. But if he's missing shots like he did in the first, it's detrimental to the Bucks' chances of winning, and I hope, of course, that he's able to have more moments like that where he is on fire instead of it being the opposite. Finally, I want to talk about Jeff Teague a little bit because as much as I know a lot of Bucks fans are going to hate to hear it, Teague has been really, really bad lately for the Bucks. He kind of was exceeding expectations over his first few games with Milwaukee as he was hitting shots and creating looks for his teammates, and it seemed like that was a better signing than I initially gave it credit for, and I probably did overreact a little bit too much in a negative way, as it was just a minimum signing, and it's not like the season was going to hinge on the play of Jeff Teague or anything like that. But After that quick start for the Bucks, Teague has really struggled over the past 7 games as he shot just 7 for 26 from the field over that stretch, which is about 25.7% if I'm not mistaken. He's also turned the ball over 8 times over that span, and he's just played some really terrible defense. You can tell by watching Teague that the effort level with him on defense just isn't that high. He closes out on shooters even slower than Brook Lopez does, and considering that Lopez is probably one of the slowest players in the entire NBA, that's pretty sad if you're Jeff Teague. That effort on defense in combination with him not being super effective on offense makes me think that there's a good chance that he just kind of falls out of Coach Mike Budenholzer's rotation by the end of the season. That was already kind of evident as he was a DNP in the first game of this weekend series against Philadelphia on Thursday night. So Jeff Teague has been a bit disappointing, and I guess that's a fitting way to end today's video because overall this is a pretty disappointing game from the Bucks, and it was definitely one that they should have won, especially when you consider that Atlanta was without their best offensive player in Trae Young. Let me know what you thought of this game in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.